love yearbooks. I don't know, are any of you in yearbook at school? Okay, cool. I used to think I think I would love to do that, but I just never did it. But yearbooks are fun, right? I never bought them just because they're so expensive for no reason. I bought only my senior year. But I remember always asking my friends, can I look through your yearbook? Because it was just always so fun at the end of the year to see what they put together. And I remember specifically my senior year, so that photo that you saw, the very last one of me, I remember looking at that photo and thinking, dang, that's me. That I know that's me, but I am not that same person anymore. Because my senior year, a lot had happened and I had changed a bunch. And for your senior photos, you actually take those the summer before you start your senior year. So it was more than a year had passed. And I was just oh my goodness, yes, this is my photo in the yearbook I just received at the end of the school year, but I took that photo when I was a totally different person. And yearbooks kind of represent that, that change that happens throughout the school year. And as you begin the new school year, you probably are all a month in, we want you to consider that. Who do you want to be by the end of this school year? Who do you want to be by the end of this school year? And if you were at camp, then you know that as Jesus followers, our endeavor in life is to become more and more like Jesus. And we talked about the 3 areas that we have to constantly return to and evaluate in order to become like Jesus. And that's our habits, what we do on a regular basis. We actually spent the last 3 weekends talking about a very important habit of studying the Bible. That is our beliefs. What do we believe about God, about church, about ourselves? And it's our relationships. And today I want us to consider our relationships because the beginning of the school year actually provides the perfect opportunity to ask the questions, what am I doing? Who do I want to be by the end of the year? And who am I doing it with? Who are the people that I am surrounding myself with? And we're going to look at a very popular verse in the book of Proverbs, which is a book with short, simple, wise sayings. It's like a guide to wise living. Most of them are written by a very wise man named Solomon. And today you are all probably going to know the one that I'm saying because I'm sure you hear it pretty often. But we're going to look at Proverbs 13:20, and it says, "Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm." Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. And I want us to notice this morning that the writer is making a direct connection between the life that we experience and the people that we hang out with. And the reason that you may feel Raylene, we have this conversation all the time, is because there really is no getting around this. Not only is it something that us as youth leaders can say we've all experienced, but personally, as I've been in youth for almost 10 years now, I have seen this pattern over and over and over again. And so we're going to keep talking about it, and we're going to keep bringing it up. You walk with the wise, you become wise. A companion of fools suffers harm. And so first, I want to highlight that second part. A companion of fools suffers harm. And I love that it says companion of fools because this means a friend of fools. We know that foolish people are going to reap the consequences of their actions. Foolish people know that they're going to reap the consequences of their actions. But the verse is specifically saying that even the friends of fools suffer harm, which means that more often than not, you don't have to be doing the dumb thing to get yourself in trouble. You're probably already thinking of situations where you're I didn't do anything, but because I was with so-and-so, I got in trouble too. And I thought of an illustration for this that I realized I had never shared this in a message before. But if you had been in one of my small groups before, I have shared this story with you. And I think maybe I haven't shared it in a message format like this to a large group of people because it's pretty embarrassing. But I think it perfectly illustrates that a companion of fools suffers harm. So when I was in 8th grade, most of you know that I was a crazy, crazy person. And I was very impulsive. I kind of just whenever I thought of doing something dumb or saying something dumb, I didn't think twice. I just did it or said it. And in 8th grade, I had a science teacher Also, this was like my 4th middle school. In 8th grade, I got kicked out of 3 middle schools. So I was on my last one, and I liked it. I was like, whatever, it is what it is. But I hated my science teacher. Like, I did not like him. It felt like he was always singling me out. He was just so rude and so mean to me. However, now as an adult, looking back, I'm like, dang, that poor man had to deal with me. Like, now I know why he was so mean to me, because I was like the worst student ever. And so 8th grade, I was in science class, and it was just a normal day. And the thing about this teacher is he always had this giant styrofoam cup of soda. I don't know what he was drinking, but it was always like full of soda. And he always had it in class. And he was like always like shaking the ice, and it would drive me crazy. He'd be like teaching and just like shake, shake, shake. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And one day he was like, all right, I'm gonna go talk to the vice principal. Here's your classwork. I'll be back in like 5 minutes. And of course, when he left, we all started talking. I went to a public school, so it was like 35 students in the class. We all started talking, hanging out. And then I had one of those impulsive thoughts. I was like, I'm gonna do something to his drink. Didn't think twice about it. I got up, I grabbed his cup, which he left. I walked over to the kitchen sink, or not kitchen sink, but the classroom sink. I put like 10 pumps of hand soap in his soda. I'm not kidding. I wish this story weren't true, because I'm so ashamed of it. I put like a bunch of hand soap in it, and I shook it up. I put it back. Everyone saw me too, and everyone was like laughing and like, oh my gosh. And I was like, yeah, like I thought I was all cool. And I put it back. Obviously, when he comes back, first thing he does is grab the drink, because he's like addicted to the soda or whatever. And he takes the biggest drink, and everyone's just like, what's gonna happen? Because everyone saw. He takes the biggest drink and then immediately spits it out, he was kind of being dramatic. He starts like choking, although I don't know, it could have been bad. He starts like choking, and everyone's like laughing, and his face is turning red. And at that point, I was like, all right, I'm in trouble. I know I did something stupid. Like, somebody's gonna rat me out. I already know how this is gonna end. And I like had accepted it. I was like, it was worth it. It literally made the whole class laugh, and I was like, it is what it is. And then he's like, who did it? Nobody said anything. And I was like, okay. Like, this is cool. Like, nobody's ratting me out. And then he calls the principal. Principal comes in, and he passes out paper. And he's like, all right, you don't even have to put your name. Just write who did it. Like, it's anonymous. Nobody's going to know who snitched on who. And I was like, all right, for sure, somebody's going to write my name. Like, not everyone was my friend. Like, I was just like, whatever. It is what it is. So they get all the papers. Not one person put my name. And except somebody did write, I helped. That's it. They just said, I helped. And I was like, and the teacher said it. He was like, who wrote this one? And I saw it said, I helped. And I was like, what? Like, who would write that? Because nobody else put anything. And it turned out to be one of my friends, because he like raised his hand. And I looked at him and I was like, what the heck? So then the principal was like, all right, let's go. Because he was the only one that wrote something, so they just assumed that he did it. And he was just like, oh, all right. And like, he got up and left, and everyone's looking at me now like, are you gonna do something? You're gonna say something? And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, nobody ratted me out, but this kid now is gonna get in trouble. And we were friends, like, we weren't close friends, but we hung out in the same friend group. So I'm like, okay, he probably felt like, all right, I'll take the fall with her, because maybe he thought somebody else was gonna put my name, I don't know. But he ended up getting up and leaving. And then eventually I was like, all right, like, I kind of played a part too. I mean, I should have just said it was a lie and I did it, but I didn't. I was like, I kind of played a part. And they're like, all right, head to the office too. And the teacher's just like looking at me. And so I go to the office, and this kid already had told them that he did it. Like, he full on took the blame. And I'm like, what is happening? And they're like, and what about you? And I was like, I still didn't fess up. I was like, I helped. And even though I knew like I was the one that did it, turns out this boy who took the blame for me because he felt some sort of loyalty. We were friends, I'm telling you, but we weren't like BFF. He got expelled. He had to take like behavioral classes. He had to go to a school outside of the district because he became a threat to the teacher, because it was like he almost tried to take the teacher's life. And I just got suspended for 3 days. And I mean, I wish I could say that I felt bad, but at the time I was like 13 and I was like, yeah, I got off the hook. Like, I didn't care. But now I'm looking back like, his whole life changed. Like, we didn't really talk to him anymore because I'm telling you, he went to a different school outside of the district. So not even nearby. He has a whole new group of friends. He actually started getting into he was like this super chill. He didn't really do much, but then he joined a bunch of sports and he started skating and his whole life changed. And I remember all of us in our friend group would be like, dang, he's a different person now. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of my fault. I was the reason that, although I did not tell him to take the blame, I did not push that on him at all. But because of our friendship, our companionship, he felt some sort of loyalty to me to take the blame. And I was the fool in this story. I was the fool who did something stupid, and a friend, like I said, who felt like he had to be loyal to me, he was the one that suffered the consequence. And this is just one example. There are so many that I have where I was always the fool in the situation. And anyone who hung out with me was the one that got in trouble. Because that is so true. It is oftentimes not what we do that gets us in trouble, but it's who we're with. And really quickly in the book of Proverbs, we're going to look at some red flags mentioned that help us identify these foolish friends in our lives. And I'm using the word foolish because that's the language in Proverbs, but you all know what I mean. The obvious first red flag is somebody who is not a Jesus follower, who's not a Christian, and is not actively trying to follow Jesus. And this one is obvious because these people are the ones who are actively trying to go against God, go against what is right and what is good. Proverbs 10:26 says that a fool finds pleasure in wicked schemes. These are people who enjoy being mean, who enjoy being violent, who enjoy participating in illegal activities. And so as a youth leader, I have had so many conversations with students where they are hanging out with people like this, and they say, oh, I got in trouble because I was hanging out with my friends and they were smoking. And I wasn't doing it though, but they were doing it, so I got in trouble. I mean, they could be lying to me too, but it's also happened where they're like, I was just holding it. I was just holding the vape for a friend. It wasn't mine. But you see how it almost cancels out. It doesn't matter whether they were doing it or not. But if you're around those types of people, you're eventually going to suffer the consequence. And it's actually a really sad reality. It happens across college campuses everywhere. The typical story of sober people getting in a car with a drunk driver. They're sober. They didn't do anything, but the driver was drunk. Therefore, they get in a crash, their life ends. That is a very tragic situation because they weren't the ones doing anything, but it was who they were with that changed their life. So that is the very obvious red flag. Another one could be somebody that is undisciplined with their words and what they say. Proverbs 10:18 says, whoever conceals hatred with lying lips and spreads slander is a fool. So these are people who are always lying, who are extremely disrespectful with their words. They're always gossiping. And this is how it can play out in a friendship. If you have a friend who gossips about other people with you all the time, and it feels comforting, it's this is just what we do. We talk about other people. What do you think is going to happen when something happens between you and them? They are going to turn around and say those things about you. And so this is just something to be aware of. And another one, in Proverbs 1, verse 7, it says that fools are also described as somebody who despises wisdom and instruction. So this is someone who never wants to hear that they're wrong. They never take responsibility for their actions. They are very quick to shift the blame on other people. They have no desire to grow or become better. And the reason this is important to look out for in your friends is because when you're choosing your friends, why would you trust somebody to look out for you if they can't even look after themselves? This is as if somebody who never gets their oil changed in their car, always getting into little crashes and little bumps here and there. They ask me, hey, Raylene, can I borrow your car? I'm like, no, absolutely not, because you are not responsible with your own. And so looking out for this in a friendship is so important because when it comes down to it, if they can't take care of themselves, if they can't be responsible for themselves, when something happens in your friendship, they're probably going to be quick to throw you under the bus. And so these are just red flags to consider, because building relationships and building friendships with people who are like what Proverbs describes as a fool, it really, really affects us. And if you do have close friends like this that have some of these qualities, I would encourage you to consider these effects, because more often than not, you don't see them right away. Sometimes it's drastic, yes, like that boy who took the blame for me. Like that was a situation where it was like, oh, 1 minute this happened, the next he's like out of the school, out of the district, yada, yada. But other times, most of the time, it happens little by little over a long period of time. And before you know it, you're like, dang, I'm different now. I didn't realize I was changing. Because the truth is, relationships do not stand still. They're always moving in a direction. And the temptation is to evaluate our friendships where they currently are. We can think like, all right, that's not the best friend. Like, they do this and they do that. But right now, our friendship's cool. Like, things are great. But what we need to do on a regular basis is consider the direction. Even consider the direction of that individual. Like, if you look at a person who you've let into your life, like, think about where do you think they're going to end up? If they keep on doing the same things they are doing, what is their life going to look like in a year? And you have to ask, like, do I want to be there with them? If this friendship continues to move in its current direction, where will it end up? And is that where I want to be? Those are very crucial questions to ask, because if we are wanting to become like Jesus, if we want to be like Jesus and we want to make long-lasting changes in the right direction, we have to consider these people in our lives. Because God wants us to have real friends, and he wants us to experience friendship in the way he designed it. And one of the benefits of having a good friend, described in the proverb that we started with, is it says in the beginning of the verse, walk with the wise and become wise. Just like being around fools eventually makes a fool out of us, being around wise friends and good friends, it will inevitably make us better. And just like there are some red flags, there are also green flags when identifying factors of a good friend. And the very obvious first one is somebody who does not interfere with your relationship with God. This is why we encourage you to have other Christian friends, or even just one Christian friend. Because if they're also looking to grow and become like Jesus, then it's going to almost feel natural for you to continue in your walk and in your discipleship. Hebrews 10:24 says, let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good works. There is this shared goal, this shared aim in life to be like Jesus. So when you are implementing change in habits such as starting to read your Bible more, or you want to pray more, if you want somebody to talk about it with, it feels natural to talk with somebody that just gets it, that won't be like, oh, like, I don't understand, that's weird, like, I'm not a Christian, so I don't get it. But if you have somebody to talk to about that, that is encouraging, and it actually keeps you accountable, and it keeps you going, and it almost like motivates you to want to continue to be better as a disciple. And another one I think of is, if you want the direction of your life to be successful, find friends. This one's pretty simple. Find friends that are hardworking. Proverbs 12, verse 11 says, those who work their land will have abundant food, but those who chase fantasies have no sense. Because there is a reward for hard work. Working really hard and receiving the reward is a part of God's design. We're not meant to just kind of sit around and like get everything handed to us. Like, we are designed to work, and we should always try our best in all that we do. At school, in our classes, in our sport, if you're an artist, if you play an instrument, always working hard towards getting better is so important, and it builds so much character in you. But you want to surround yourself with people who are doing the same. If you want to be successful in your sport, hang out with people who can pull that out of you, who can challenge you, and who can motivate you to be better. And I told you all before, I failed my entire freshman year of high school, like literally all Fs both semesters. And it was no surprise that if you looked at my friends, they also failed their entire freshman year of high school. And it's not because one day I woke up and I was like, you know what, I'm going to do what my friends do, and we're just all going to fail our entire freshman year of high school. Like, it wasn't like a decision I made. It was just that after school, when I told my parents I was studying and doing homework, I was with my friends. And what my friends and I were doing, we were at the park smoking weed. Like, I wasn't trying to be a bad student. I just prioritized my bad friendships more. And the result of that was that we all kind of ended up doing the same thing, which was fail our entire freshman year of high school. And so it feels so insignificant to think like, I need to be around better people, but it makes all the difference. And of course, there's the other running list of green flags that we all want in our friendships, which is somebody who's kind, who's loyal, who is forgiving, trustworthy, who is wise and funny, and you have fun together. Like, those are all great things to look for, because friends, they actually can make us better. They're not just people that we like do fun stuff with whenever we want and like that's it. But friends can at this age can actually be so pivotal in your discipleship to Jesus, and they can make life better. You walk with the wise and you become wise. And now, before I wrap up, I want to acknowledge that some of you are probably thinking, okay, Raylene, I get it. But when you lay it all out like that, I have no options. And trust me, I understand that. When I was in high school, it was like kind of beginning of senior year, kind of late beginning of senior year, is when I decided, okay, I'm going to start following Jesus. I'm going to take this serious. And so I was still in high school. I still had almost 1 full year left of high school. And I would come to youth, literally sit in the same chairs as you. I don't think we've gotten new chairs since we've started youth. And so pastors would stand right up here, while they'd actually stand on this stage because this is new. And they would say the same message. And they would say, your friends determine your life. You become who you hang out with. And I used to sit there and think, all right, well, I guess I'm not going to have any friends. Like, I didn't know any friends with these green flags. All I had around me were friends with these red flags. And they had been my friends for years. They were my friends in middle school. They were my friends at the beginning of high school and all throughout high school. And Anthony and I actually would invite them here to youth because we thought, like, all right, what if they become Christian? That kind of makes it easier, right? I don't have to drop them and I don't have to find new friends. We can just make our current friends who aren't so good come to church and be Christian. And we'd bring them, and they would straight up tell us, like, yeah, we hated that. And we're like, okay. And we'd keep bringing up, yeah, we don't like that. Yeah, and oh, there's this cute guy here. And I was like, okay. And so that didn't work. And it became very, very discouraging, because then I knew, 1, I have to stop hanging out with these friends. And 2, I have to make new friends. And this was so intimidating, because what I want us to catch before I move on is, this message is not about don't hang out with people with the red flags, don't talk to those people, don't judge them, be mean to, stay away from them at all costs, avoid, avoid, avoid. That is not what this message is. This message is, we all know people with those red flags, right? We all know we are surrounded by them. But the question is, are we going to make them our friends? Are we going to make them the people in our lives that influence us, that speak into our lives, that we confide in on a regular basis? Because that's what influences the direction of our lives. Now, what I had to realize early on was, with these people in my life that I knew I couldn't be friends with, I didn't say, all right, that's it, good luck. Instead, I kind of shifted my focus on, these are my peers who I was friends with since middle school. So I'm like, I love them. I don't feel right enough to just kind of leave them hanging and be like, all right, I'm a Christian now, can't talk to you anymore. But instead, I kind of shifted my focus of, these can no longer be my friends, but instead, I didn't say this to them, but from my perspective, they became my peers that I then started having influence on, instead of letting influence me. These are the people that we tell you, when we are called as Christians to be a light in the world, when we are called to love people and to love difficult people, these are the people we're talking about. So to just kind of cut them off and be like, all right, good luck, That's not the heart of Jesus. That's not what we are called to do. But this message and this, what I'm trying to convey is, who are your friends? Who are your, even if it's just one person, like, who are the close-knit people in your life that you are going to let influence you? Because, like we've talked about, their direction, it inevitably will become yours. And so please consider that. And then when it comes to finding new friends, finding better friends, this is a great place to start. And you already have something in common in that you come here. Whether you want to be here or you don't want to be here, you're here. And I know it can feel intimidating and it can feel awkward, but even if you want to just start talking to a leader, like if a leader is your first friend, that's okay. We are here for you, and we want to help connect you to other students that may be feeling the same things as you. I cannot tell you how many times I've talked to students and they say like, oh, I feel yada, 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 and then I get another conversation and another student feels the exact same way. And so I know it feels like when you come in here, you're like all alone in your thoughts and you're like, I must be the only one that feels this way, but you're probably not. There are other students here that want to connect and that want to find a friend just as much as you do. It's just getting out of your comfort zone. And this is actually where now all of the most meaningful friendships I found here. But it wasn't like, all right, I'm just gonna sit around and hope that something happens. You have to have the awkward conversations. And so I'd encourage you, even if it's just saying hi to somebody new, just do it. Like you're not gonna know what's on the other side of it if you just sit and hope that it happens. And so for the 100th time, this is a very important conversation because your friends really do determine the quality and the direction of your life. And we will keep talking about this over and over again. So if you're tired of it, I'm sorry. We're going to keep talking about it because it really, really matters. But I'm going to stop talking about it now because we're out of time.